There is some major drama in the Democratic Senate primary in Texas. Right now, Texas State Rep. James Talrico is leading Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett in the race to be the Democratic nominee for Senate. Both are trying to do what no Democrat has done in a generation, win a statewide race in Texas, which has not happened since 1994. But this primary just got more complicated because the Texas Supreme Court has blocked an earlier ruling that allowed extended voting hours in Dallas County. The court said any votes that came in after the original closing time should not be counted tonight while the case is litigated. They should be separated. Moments ago, Crockett spoke, saying she thinks it's unlikely that a winner will even be known tonight. On the Republican side, incumbent Senator John Cornyn will be headed to a bruising runoff against Attorney General Ken Paxton after neither candidate cleared 50% plus one of the vote. Our reporters and analysts are here to cover it all tonight, and I want to start with CNN's John King, who was at the Magic Wall. John, tell me, how important is the vote count out of Dallas County for that Talrico-Crockett race?
Well, obviously it is her home base and every vote counts. And on this first primary night of 2026, we certainly want to start by making sure every vote is counted. But let's look at it. The question is, though, Laura, we'll see what happens in the courts and we'll see which ballots they count. Hopefully they count them all if people were in line and thought they could vote. The question is it enough? Is it enough? Because you look right now at the race, the state representative, as you mentioned, James Talrico, leading there 52 to 47. So he's got a 5-point lead, or 70, just shy of 75,000 votes at the moment, with about 63% of the vote counted. Now, how much is out in Dallas County? It's a good question. If they're going to have litigation now about, are all ballots counted or are some ballots, because of the state Supreme Court ruling, ruled out of bounds or after time. At the moment, she's winning big there, 61 to 38. Again, this is her home base, Dallas County, and next door in Tarrant County, Fort Worth, Dallas-Fort Worth, where her district stretches, and she's winning big there with about 65% in. But if you look at the rest of the map, Talrico's running up an impressive coalition. If you look in the other major areas, Travis County, where Austin is, that's the home base of the legislature where he works. It's the big government town, fifth largest of the 254 counties, excuse me. He's getting 76%. You move down to Bexar County, that's San Antonio. He's getting 57% of the vote there. Also impressive, Laura, we've talked about the Latino vote. Did Texas Republicans make a bad bet? Did they think all those Latinos who drifted toward Trump would stay with Republicans? We won't know the answer until November, how that actually plays out in this race and every other race in Texas. But if you look along the Rio Grande Valley, that's mostly Talrico blue you're seeing there. And if you go into some of these counties, it's by pretty big numbers. That has been part of his sales pitch, that he's a candidate who can win some white moderate voters, also win Latino voters. The question is, if he defeats Crockett, and that's an if at this moment, can he also bring in the African-American base of the party? That'll be a question going forward and a conversation for your panel. But the Democrats are trying to pick a candidate, and as you noted, this is every 2 years or 4 years, we say, is Texas about to go blue? Is there a chance? They think because of Trump's approval rating and the climate, the broader national midterm climate, that they have a chance. The question now is, who will that Democrat be running against? When incumbents are forced into runoffs, they usually lose. John Cornyn with 43%, he's the senator, he's the incumbent senator. Ken Paxton, the attorney general, at 41. Congressman Wesley Hunt at 13. You look at the map, it's Cornyn and Paxton essentially trading counties as you go through. What's going to happen right now, Laura, this has already been, I just want to show you this, it'll make everybody at home sick to their stomach, because this has already been the most expensive Senate race in history, $71 million just for pro-Cornyn forces. You see all this other money spent. The question is, you have a Republican runoff that goes into May in a midterm election year where Republicans have to defend a lot of ground nationally, a lot of expensive places outside of Texas they need to defend. And so now you're going to have both Cornyn and Paxton going to one Donald J. Trump and say, Mr. President, put your thumb on the scale, because otherwise you're going to have more bloodshed, more spending, more Republican fighting in a place. Listen, if we're talking about this on election night in November, then that means the Democrats are in a very favorable climate. So we still don't know who the Democratic candidate is going to be, but we do know the Republican race goes on for a couple more months, and it's been ugly so far. I can only imagine what it gets like going forward.
So let's talk about going forward with that runoff between Cornyn and Paxton, given, of course, we don't know who they will ultimately, either of them will face in the general. But can you project out a little bit based on what you're seeing right now?
Again, history tells you that incumbents, when forced into that one-on-one race, if they had an early one and they get pushed into runoff, very hard, right? You're an incumbent. Why didn't you win the first time, right? The forces of change are out there coming at you. However, as Cornyn has said repeatedly, and he's run some pretty crazy eye-opening ads. I'm not going to repeat the language in them, but you can find them on YouTube, folks at home, if you want to see them. This has been a nasty. I mean, we know about nasty races. This might give new meanings to nasty as you go through. Paxton has had a number of character challenges, a number of ethical challenges, and Cornyn has tried to take advantage of them. But despite all that money he spent, I just showed it to you, they're running almost even in that race. So the question is what happens. You say, so you look at the map like this and you say, can you find a strength or a weakness when it's a one-on-one? It's pretty hard, actually. I just want to show you, if this is overgeneralizing. But this is Bush versus Trump. Cornyn goes back to the George W. Bush days, the Karl Rove days in Texas. Even though he has tried to draft with Trump, in Washington, like a lot of Republicans do, he's not performative like Trump. Paxton is a mega Republican. He sues to help Trump. He says elections were stolen and things like that. So you look at, for Cornyn to win, he needs the traditional, college-educated, suburban, affluent Republicans. In Dallas County, he did pretty well there, 53% to 31%. What struck me is you come down here to Houston and Harris County, the fastest growing part of the state, they ran even down here. So your more traditional Republicans in that part of the state did not go Cornyn's way. There, you come over again, to the big government town here. This is where Cornyn did have a bigger margin. Your establishment Republicans are around the government town. This is the lobbyists and the fundraisers and things like that. And so you can look at it and see some of the establishment, anti-establishment. Up here in these rural counties where Trump usually runs it up, Cornyn's actually doing pretty well. These are places, not by huge margins, but these are places Trump has won. So I can actually I can go one place and make the Cornyn argument. I can go somewhere else and make the Paxton argument. I will just tell you, in 40 years of doing this, if you're the incumbent and you get forced through a runoff, that's a problem. But again, given all the Republican dynamics nationally and where they're going to need money and need resources and they would like to focus their attention, the next question in this race will not be the voters in May. It'll be Donald Trump, like tomorrow.
I'm curious also who gets Wesley Hunt's votes going forward as well. John King, stay with us. We'll come back to you in just a moment. A lot to get to tonight. Jasmine Crockett says that she thinks we won't even know the winner of the Democratic Party tonight because the Texas Supreme Court blocked a decision from a judge who ruled that Dallas polling places had to be kept open for 2 hours later than usual. Here's what she said just a few moments ago.
But I can tell you now that people have been disenfranchised. The polls were supposed to stay open until 9. According to a court order. The Supreme Court, just a few minutes ago, just said, shut it down. The Supreme Court also said that they are to separate any votes out that came in after 7 p.m. What this means is that we will not know what votes are to be tallied from Election Day out of Dallas County. For sure, we won't know that tonight.
She's referencing, of course, the Texas Supreme Court. I want to bring in CNN's Jeff Zeleny. He's at James Talrico's headquarters in Austin. Jeff, we know Jasmine Crockett will not be appearing again tonight. She said as much because of this legal fight over the voting extension in Dallas County. What is the Talrico camp saying, Jeff?
Well, Laura, perhaps you can see behind me here, there are a few hundred supporters of James Talarico who have been waiting for what they had hoped would be a victory speech or perhaps some word for the campaign, but it effectively has been just a wait and see with no official announcement from the Talarico campaign at all here. So it is unclear what is coming next. One thing that is clear, the Talarico campaign is confident of their showing across the state of Texas. They believe that they have done very well with Hispanic voters. They believe that they have done very well building a coalition. But one piece of that coalition that, of course, is important to any Democratic candidate is African-American voters, and they largely supported Jasmine Crockett. So that is one of the reasons that I am told that the Talarico campaign is treading carefully here. They are obviously not wanting to disenfranchise any voters and obviously wanting to wait and see for a bit. But the question is, how long does that go? Of course, we are just about a little over an hour after the polls closed here, so not all that much time has passed, but certainly a significant here. But we've not seen James Talarico. But Laura, just taking kind of a bigger picture here from this confusing point at the end. This has been an extraordinary campaign that Texas has seen Jasmine Crockett, of course, a rising star in the Democratic Party, and James Tallarico. And they were effectively aligned on policy issues, but in a very different stylistic approach about what type of fighter to be. Jasmine Crockett, of course, wanted to be a louder fighter against President Trump and Republicans. James Tallarico often talked about bridging some of those divides, but did push very hard on immigration. So Texas voters had a choice, and we see what the vote has come in so far. But it is not enough. We are waiting for the vote in Dallas County. So certainly an interesting race as Texas Democrats hope that all sides can come together regardless of the outcome and do something that they have not done since 1988 and elect a U.S. Senator as a Democrat from here in Texas.